1904, even when Virginia's streets were unpaved, the sidewalks were made of board, and consistent electrical service was unknown, the city had flowers. And those flowers came from the first greenhouse ever built north of Duluth, a structure of glass and wood built by Alfred Johnson, a young Swedish immigrant with piercing blue eyes. Today, more than a century later, the greenhouse is gone, though the same family still runs the business. People bought flowers much more than they do now, said Mary Jo Ralston, Johnson's granddaughter and the third-generation owner of Virginia Floral. In the early 1900s, when many Iron Range residents were European immigrants, flowers were part of everyday life. In 1884, 2 florists were included in the Duluth City listings, and that was the year the Society of American Florists was born. That year, Johnson was just maturing out of his teens, and he was thinking about crossing the ocean to America. He came to Nebraska in 1887, then moved to Washington and along the West Coast before settling in Virginia in 1894. Johnson's first greenhouse was modest, just an 18 by 35-foot wooden frame structure built near Chestnut Street in 1904. 4 years later, Johnson built a large glass greenhouse on Fifth Avenue, followed by another large glass greenhouse built on Southern Drive in the Ridgewood addition of Virginia in 1916. That first shop looks much different than Virginia Floral does today. Marie Ralston remembers the shop as smallish, narrow, with a few shelves on the walls for vases and arrangements. A picture of Alfred and Artie standing in the shop shows a display of Easter lilies in full flower and elaborate wreaths of dried flowers. Today, the Virginia Floral Shop on Chestnut Street is filled top to bottom with not only flowers and plants, but also home decoration and gift items galore. That's been a real change in the floral industry, Mary Jo Ralston said, as giving flowers became more of an event. Think anniversaries, holidays, and funerals, as opposed to an everyday gift, and as convenience stores and grocers began selling bouquets, florists had to branch out, she said. Other floral trends have come and gone. In the early 1900s, elaborate funeral displays were common, Ralston said. Workers would pack wire forms with wet sphagnum moss and then carefully stud the entire form with colorful flowers. Ralston has pictures of doves, American flags, open gates, and many more styles. Today, all that remains of that tradition are a few old wire forms in the shop basement. And while Alfred Johnson was able to grow most of what he sold in his multiple greenhouses, whatever he couldn't grow, like roses, came in on the train. Today, all the fresh products are shipped in. It was this willingness and ability to adapt with the times that has kept Virginia Floral alive, Ralston said. Over the years, we have resisted the temptation to remain comfortable, she said. When the world changed, we changed. Rather than sending flowers by Western Union telegram, for example, today Ralston takes orders 24 hours a day at the Virginia Floral website. The business survived 2 devastating hailstorms in the summer of 1952, when thousands of panes of glass in the greenhouses were destroyed. And it survived when Alfred Johnson, who had matured into a soft-spoken but well-respected city alderman and church member, died in 1939. His children continued to run the business. The greenhouses eventually became too expensive to operate. In 1950, it took an estimated 200 tons of coal each year to keep the greenhouses at the optimum temperature. In later years, the family switched to fuel oil before dismantling the greenhouses altogether, Ralston said. Marie Ralston had generally worked on the bookkeeping side of Virginia Floral. She rarely worked with the flowers, but when her brother called a family meeting and announced he had a buyer interested in Virginia Floral, she jumped in and bought her siblings' shares. I didn't want to see it go out of the family, Marie Ralston explained, but she couldn't work at the business on her own. It was 1975, and Mary Jo Ralston was just about to enroll at Arizona State University to pursue a degree in respiratory therapy. A call from her mother changed her plans. She told me, "I could really use your help," Ralston said. I didn't hesitate. I came home and never left. Today, Ralston does a lot of designing. Like many florists, she keeps a book of the more elaborate and creative concoctions, like the towering, 3-tiered wedding centerpiece that came to her in a dream or the boutonnieres for a hunting-themed wedding that included orange carnations tucked into spent shotgun shells. But one thing that hasn't changed has been the personal connections Virginia Floral staff has forged with their longtime customers, Ralston said. You get to know the people that you've had the good fortune to serve. Everyone is a friend when you've married them, you've celebrated with them, you've cried with them. Early in January is usually a time for florists, Ralston said, but this year she was deluged with work creating floral tributes for one funeral after another. It was painful work. It's hard to see the people you love hurting when you've been with them through every special moment in their lives. They are not just customers, they are friends. That's why we do what we do.